Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host Pez. I'm here with Sauce. We just finished round 14, Sauce, and there's some huge things to come out in the footy world, and it's not anything to do with the footy. It's to do with a pretty awful footy club, and you may have seen it, but the Bombers.
I knew this was coming.
Are looking to change the logo up, and there's been some interesting conversations around workplaces and on Twitter and on social media, and I just wanted to hear your stance about the offensive bomber plane in the Essendon logo.
I haven't looked into it in real depth because I don't care. But if we're looking at the actual aspect of Essendon being the football club, the history, yes, I know what the logo looks like. Thank you for putting it up on the screen.
It's not the only one I got to show you.
I like the tradition of it. I think it's nice and basic. I understand the tradition behind it, which is good. But historically, football is a sport that generally harps on about history when it suits them and making changes at other times. So,
well, it's strange that they just celebrated their history with the 16 Premiership Cups against Carlton, and then now they're going, it might be a little bit too offensive to some people, so we're going to get rid of the plane. And when I was involved in a conversation, I was just throwing the lure out there, throwing the bait out, because there was a couple of Essendon members in there, and they were very adamant. They tried to ring the club this morning. They're going to be ringing the club on Monday morning. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, because they shouldn't hire a consultant. They should consult their members and send an email out to them first, which I guess it could be there, but there's been a lot of nice logos going around on Twitter anyway as well.
On the list of issues with the Essendon Football Club, the logo is the least of their worries.
Which is one of my beliefs. I think because they haven't won a final since 2004, they've been relevant. A really mediocre club. I think they're just going, you know what? We're sitting in the 8 at the moment, and we're just going to give the backhand and just distract everyone from the last 20 years, just in case we don't win a final again this year, because that joke will continue to happen.
I think I'd be more inclined to agree with the overhaul of the logo if, for example, they went at the start of the season and said, you know what, we need to change the culture of the club. We need to do something radical. You're not going to, you're not going to adjust the jersey, the colours, the bomber. You can make slight changes like Brisbane Lions did when they started, competing again. They went through that rebuild. They changed the Lions, the way the lion was facing, to face forward, because that's
standing up.
Yep, standing up. A small little change that you could make to rebrand and redo your culture, but
West Coast have been through changes. You got
mid-season after you've just demonstrated your 16 premierships on against Carlton.
It's a bit ridiculous. Ridiculous. Here we go. You've got this one here.
Oh, I don't mind that one actually. It's
you like that one?
Nice little a plane pointing upwards where they're ready for takeoff.
Looks like
the bombers fly up.
It looks like a tick there. So I'm not sure.
It looks like a dick.
Why that is?
You need to go get that checked out.
One of their older ones with the old cartoon bomber plane from the early 2000s.
I don't mind that.
Back on the emblem there. You got the VFL one with the old bomber plane, but all these, I guess the plane's the one that's offensive.
But for me, if the plane is what's offensive, then surely bomber as well. So if you're looking at if you look at it for the
so just put the pilot in.
But if you look at it like the American sports, the Cleveland Indians, you looked at the Washington Redskins, and they changed it because that's what I brought up today. Connotations with the American Indians and the cultural and the native and being disrespectful. If that's the case, then the bomber has to change itself. The name of bomber, if that's what's offensive.
The song,
see the bombers,
the
fly
logo,
up. Yeah.
All of those things would have to change, because you can't just change the plane and then leave the nickname and the thing. Because it still means the same thing.
Yeah, if it's the plane is offensive, then the tag name bomber is offensive, and that's why Geelong got rid of Bomber Thompson. It was just too offensive, and then
he went to the Bombers, and then he stuffed them.
See what happens?
So I did see one really good one. It was an old clip art of just a syringe with a little bit of red in the needles sticking out. So that could be a part of the logo.
You've got your jab in there, Pez.
That could be a part of it, couldn't it?
It could be, but it was a big week of football, and we need to get it. I'm going to move on very quickly and swiftly with that one, but I think that, as we said, if they're going to look at that and the proposed changing of the logo, and it is offensive, it is deemed offensive, then Essendon fans unfortunately have to acknowledge their history, suck it up, and be progressive and move forward. whether or not it is not offensive or not, that's on, I guess, the world to decide.
I think it's pretty offensive to their supporters that they haven't won a final since 2004, so maybe worry about the footy.
You are fishing all over Pez tonight. But there was some great, we had the bye round of football. There was some absolute cracking games of football. I think we should just get straight into it, Pez, unless there's anything else that you want to talk to.
Just a couple of really good results for a couple of clubs, with the Giants absolutely smashing Fremantle. You had Richmond winning Cochin's 300th, so that was a really big thing. They actually had a brand spanking mascot. They've got the male tiger, they've got the female tiger, and they had an actual Trent Cochin person type mascot thing on Saturday night in the rain. So that was very good to see. And everything else happened in Carlton are back. We're back, baby. Carlton above the Suns, winning by 59 points. And last time they beat the Suns, or a couple of years ago, Patrick Cripps walked into the rooms and goes, "We're back, baby." So I wonder if he did it again on.
It was more
Sunday.
than a couple of years ago. That was like 2007, wasn't it?
He's not been around since then. I think it might have been 2019 or 2020.
It was pretty late. But there was some good games of football. Most of the games, take out the Giants, were decided within 30 points, which is pretty good. Even North Melbourne coming, really giving the Western Bulldogs a bit of a scare and only losing by 21. Your boys.
Yeah, the Roo boys.
The Roo boys, you're all over them.
Yeah, get around them. They're looking a lot better. They've got to get some players back, and it'll be interesting to see how they go moving forward, especially into 2024, because I think their supporters have waited enough, and they need them to start competing a little bit more than just a bottom four side. So they have lost 12 in a row and 12 on the trot, so they need to win one in the next few weeks. There's a big game in round 18 coming up. For North Melbourne. Big
game. And speaking of winning games and losing games on the trot, Port Adelaide really stamped themselves as one of the true contenders this year, being challenged early by the Cats and coming out in the third quarter. And just, I think the first 5 minutes, there was 3 possessions to about 30 of just absolute sheer dominance by Port Adelaide.
In the third quarter,
Geelong
quarter, started the game on fire.
They did start well, yeah. And it's funny because watching that as a Geelong supporter, obviously, I thought, I was a little bit worried for Port Adelaide because I thought, this is what they always seem to do. They're going well, and then someone comes along and just snaps them back to reality. But they bounce back. They look super impressive in that third quarter, piling on a stack of goals and really doing a number on the Geelong Cats.
They did that young midfield, and they've got that forward line starting to figure it out. They were a bit inaccurate, but they can continue to move forward, and they need to finish top 2 and get a couple of home finals at Adelaide Oval. There would be amazing for them.
It would be amazing. And I forgot to ask you, how was Cam Rayner's 100th? You went to that game, didn't you?
That was a week before, mate. What are you talking about? I didn't go on Friday night.
You didn't go on Friday night?
Well, it's in Brisbane.
Wasn't that his 100th game? Didn't he invite you for his 100th game?
Yeah, well, the week before in the 99th. You know that.
Was this the 101st, was it?
It was just these.
Oh, so he messed it up, did you?
Yeah, well, we know that. We know that from the
tell you what, he played well in his 100th.
He played all right, and Brisbane got the win. And Sydney actually would have impressed because they actually stayed in a game and didn't get blown out. So let's get into our review for round 14.
It's no official review. How does it end? We don't know. They've kind of lost, but they've won as well.
I'll just speak about the first game there, Sauce. Port Adelaide versus Geelong. I went with Jason Horne-Francis, as everyone would know, on Twitter at Behind the Bound. There's a Google Doc there that has every single one of our bets. So I had Jason Horne-Francis, more disposals than Tom Atkins. Started with Atkins 7, Horne-Francis 1. So that was the first quarter. And then Horne-Francis got on the bike and got a bit of a lead and led the whole way until Atkins got a couple of 1-2s. And then for the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, Atkins sat one disposal behind Jason Horne-Francis, who gave away 4 or 5 free kicks, was a very, very angry man on Thursday night, Jason Horne-Francis. But he got the job done in the end. If Atkins had got one more cheapie, it would have been a loss due to the draw. But the $1.91... 1 unit, we'll take that.
I'm glad that your bet got up early. More glad that Horne-Francis was a little bit grumpy because his little tantrum of throwing the football just away like a kid or a spoilt brat that's had
he's a kid.
It definitely helped me out because he gave a 50-metre penalty away to Patrick Dangerfield, and I had an anytime goal scorer going off what I said, the trend of them giving away to those smaller goal kickers.
Gary Rowan, for example.
Rowan, who I forgot all about, who piled it on early in that third.
What, he kicked
that first
3
quarter,
goals
3
in
in
the
the
first?
but giving away obviously to those big midfielders goals as well. So 250 slot for me. I mean, it was great. We lost Friday night, Geelong, but I was up 3 units without spending a cent on by Friday night.
The strange thing that came out afterwards is he cracked a rib and had a collapsed lung or something.
Yeah.
That was in the second quarter, they were saying.
Yeah, that was second quarter.
He kicked his goal in the third, so well done for him for actually staying on the ground and
thank goodness.
continuing to go from there. In the Brisbane-Sydney game, this one was really interesting because we discussed last week and we both liked Coleman for his over line, which was about 17.5. He ended up with 20, so that was good. I had Bailey for 15 plus, so he had 26, and Ashcroft 20 plus. So this was without Daniel Rich and without Hugh McCluggage in that midfield. So Ashcroft, he was on track. He had 15 at the half source and looking really, really good. He only had 8 disposals in the second half. So my same game multi got up at 220, but my single bet on Ashcroft over 23.5 lost by 0.5. So he couldn't get it done in the end there. So I just escaped with a 0.2 unit profit for that game.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting you talk about the trends of him being at home and obviously his possessions going up, and he was on track, but Brisbane just sort of playing with their food a little bit and just sort of, just never in doubt of losing, but teasing their opposition sort of helped with that one. Another trend that we spoke about was the GWS and Fremantle game and them giving away a heap of the pill. I know Cornelio had for 25, Whitfield for 20, and Toby Green. And as I said, and you alluded to, that if he gets a lot of the ball, they're going to win easy. And he had 13 touches in the third quarter, and I said, this is a nice and home, and
it came nearly down to the wire.
It was
pretty comfortable in the end.
A nice little double up. It was, because once he got that extra, they got over that 15, he sort of piled it on. So $2.10 for me, 2 units a win for that was fantastic. Yeah,
my bonus bet was thrown out on St Kilda minus 10.5, and I think if the rain didn't come, Richmond might have gone a little bit over it. And just interestingly enough, in this game, Andrew McQualter, the caretaker coach for Richmond, played under Ross Lyon in 2009, 2010, and he just seemed to know exactly how to break that zone open. I think St Kilda tried to push the zone a little bit further towards St Kilda's forward line, and being at the ground live, able to see that really well. Richmond, they just ran through Sauce. They just handball happy and just ran straight through that zone. And there's the recipe on how to beat St Kilda and see if Ross has got any more tricks in his bag for the rest of the season.
I mean, it's sort of a trend with Ross Lyon sort of teams that once he gets beaten, he doesn't really adjust for multiple years, actually, sometimes. So it'd be interesting to see how he adjusts with that. Speaking of adjustments, I had a bonus bet from the Brisbane game on the Friday night that we sort of spoke about. Them not getting over by 40 plus was the leg that let me down. So I was searching through Twitter and saw a couple of different tweets out there, piled together a nice little same game multi. Didn't get up one leg there, so I lost my bonus. But overall,
one leg, did you?
Hey,
was that one leg miss?
One leg, yeah. I had Power for 19.5. Fiorini,
Power. He killed a lot of little multis I saw over the weekend.
Will Power,
yeah.
Oh, did he? What were they going for?
Well, 20 plus.
No, he got his 20 plus.
I thought he only got 16.
No. Fiorini only got 16 for me.
Oh, well, there you go. You might have missed out by 2 then.
Oh, maybe I did.
See how we go.
Either way, I was just letting everyone know that I put a bonus bet on our Twitter. That's where we put out our live bonus bets. So make sure you jump on there to follow along with some of that weekend fun, especially recording so early in the week. But yeah, for me, positive round.
Yeah, we haven't finished the round yet.
Don't sound surprised.
Just a couple of units I had on the Carlton money line just because I really needed them to win. And they ended up in that second quarter. They just got out of the centre, goal, out of the centre, goal. It was amazing to see. And it's amazing to see players like Patrick Cripps, who's been struggling for weeks, when it's easy and the footy's just coming and it's just goal after goal. Easy to see him, get 30 and 3 and just enjoy his day.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that finally the data and analysis stacks up and the team that should win on the day when they're playing Carlton win. So, I don't even mind burning 2 units on the Gold Coast because the trend for the last month, I've been very profitable from back in against Carlton. So, but a team coming off the bye never responds well, and that trend continued, and I'll be taking advantage of that going into our bet slip in just a moment.
Yeah, definitely. So round 14, I profited 2.59 units for a 51% ROI. And for the season, that's a profit of 16.02 units there, Source at a 15.8% ROI. So that ROI keeps creeping up after that slow start in the first couple of rounds. So hopefully I can just continue to build on that bank and continue to grow the units round by round.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a betting fatigue from round 13 because I only staked 6 units compared to the 17 the week before. But it doesn't matter whether I put 17 down, 6, 3. All it does is just rain up profit. So I put down 6 for the round, returned 1.2 units there, ROI of 20. And for the year, staked still more than you. You still can't catch me from that 17 unit week. 108 staked for the year, and a massive 30.34 units return, Pez. And we say massive because if you look around Twitter at some of these other Twitter pages and podcasts and things out there, I mean, podcasts are a little bit tough because they don't always hold themselves accountable. But
that's true.
We are absolutely flying with a combined profit of over 46 units compared, but massive 30 for me, just carrying the team, really.
Yeah, well, it's getting into round 15 Sauce, and if we want to beat last year's 120 unit haul, we need to keep growing and keep getting a move along.
So how were we 120 last year?
Yeah, 77 and 40. You were 43 plus or something.
Jeez, we're a good podcast.
The fact that the size of the bets was relatively small.
Now Bex with an opportunity about 50 metres out.
I was with a mate, and we were getting sort of ready to leave, and he said, I think I'm going to whack 10 on Maxi. Do you want some as well? And I said,
Oh, yes! Yes! Yes!
And we wouldn't be any of we're a great podcast, Pez, but we would be nothing without the specials of all the betting agencies.
Cyril takes a special and goes bang.
Yeah, well, don't give them too much of a pump up.
Yeah, every time someone gets on board and helps us out, help support our gambling habit a little bit would be nice.
So Tab have kept the same game multi, but just be careful, the $1.10 per leg and the $2 all up for that one. So they've got it for all games. Sportsbet have the 3+ leg, 1 leg fails, only Thursday and Friday night matches. Ladbrokes the same as always, just 1 refund per day on the same game multi, and they've got the mega multi 4+ legs. If one fails, you can get a bonus bet back for that. Neds have the early payout 12+ at halftime, and I'm sure they'd throw a few other tokens and things around, but that's all we've found at the moment. Bluebet as well have the 12 up special. If you're ahead at halftime by 12, you get paid early, and it hasn't happened too many times where you've been up at 12 and then that team has lost. So I guess that's why Bluebet are continuing with that promotion, because they haven't really lost out on anything just yet.
No, they haven't. There was an interesting thing that Sir Swamp put out during the week of what the ladder would look like if teams, you only played, the game started from the third quarter and all that, and the ladder doesn't change that much. So it's a really good strategy for Bluebet and all those companies to do that, because, as you said, it normally salutes if they're up at halftime.
Now, the best thing, and Sir Swamp that's one of the accounts that I have notifications on for, because I just love looking at the obscure stats. One of the best things in that, if you haven't done it yet, Source, you click on that tweet, and you read some of the comments, because they're like, oh, well, what if all games were played here and odd and even and stuff? And you know what he does? He chooses like a stupid one, and he actually gets the stats out for it and retweets it with that tweet underneath. So he has a bit of fun with it, and people, they're just really salty online, to be honest.
Tell you what, his database and spreadsheet, and I've spent a stupid amount of time on my spreadsheet just to identify disposals and goals and trends. He's back in AFL history for the last 100-something years.
He's got everything.
Must be incredibly
I don't
detailed.
think there's anything he doesn't have.
No,
and
it doesn't.
The commentators on Channel 7 especially always steal his stats.
They never give him the credit.
So I don't know if he actually gets paid by them, where they can just say his stats straight away, or he needs some sort of licensing deal with that if he doesn't have that already.
Yeah, he definitely does. All right, let's get into round 15, the second of 3 bye rounds. First off, we start off on Thursday Night Football. We love it, but it does put us under pressure coming into not only betting, but getting our lives organised to record on a Wednesday night. But Geelong taking on Melbourne, $1.85 favourites. Geelong, despite their pretty poor form over the last month. Melbourne, $1.95 after a big win against Collingwood. The team deemed to be the premiers already, if you ask Collingwood fans. -1.5 is the line. And I don't have the over-under there because I was on Bluebet, but the over-under is 150.5. Apologies for that. So
why are we asking Collingwood fans about this game?
No, because the Melbourne beat last
Beat
week,
Collingwood.
beat Collingwood. So, and they've already won the premiership, if you ask anyone. So,
right.
despite them sitting second at the moment.
Excellent. Well, the most interesting thing, and I guess for the whole round of what we need to be aware of and speak about, is a stat that you brought up a couple of weeks ago, Sauce, where it is all over Twitter at the moment as well. The team coming off the bye is really struggling to get up and win. So the two teams that had the bye last week, Geelong, who lost to Port Adelaide, and Gold Coast, who lost to Carlton. So another two where it's happened. And this season, it hasn't happened where a team coming off the bye has won, except for one game where both teams actually played against each other who were coming off a bye. So we'll be aware of that as well.
And that statistic is over the last 10 years running at 46%, but over the last, I think it's 3 years, that's running at almost 80%. So in the modern era, or the last couple of years, the what they're doing in the lead up to it is really affecting. But in saying that, Melbourne, in their preparation for this game, they have a Casey Oval that they've put the dimensions for Geelong to try and combat that. They're actually going up, they're up there tonight, and they're staying overnight in Geelong, like obviously tonight, so to stop that travel time. So they're taking this game really serious because they can't afford to drop this in their top four drive for this year.
Yeah, definitely. There's some big ins, or a big in for Melbourne win. Harrison Petty, who comes back into the side. Tomlinson's been omitted, and Stanley comes in for Geelong as well. So to bolster that ruck area and run around in the midfield. So as we said about the bye, Melbourne are the team coming off the bye, but Geelong are travelling back from Port Adelaide, even though they did play last Thursday night as well. So there was a 7-day break, ideally. Geelong at home. This is always a decent game where Melbourne got one. I think it was last year at GMHBA, was it, where they got over the line 2 years ago?
Where they got home on the last kick of the night, Max Gawn.
Yeah, and then there was a time before that where Zach Tui saved the game as well with a kick.
Nice little
close
point.
after the siren.
Exactly
so that was good as well. But Gawn last week, he was absolutely fantastic in Melbourne's performance, or the last game that they played, because he was just sitting behind the ball and able to intercept that as well. And he'll need to do that with Geelong's forward line down at GMHBA. So it'll be interesting to see your trends with the goal kickers and things. I think for this Thursday night, I'm just going to enjoy two teams that will compete in September this year. And I'm not going to place a bet in this one, Sauce, and I'm not even going to look at any trends or anything, because my interest is peaked just from these two teams playing.
Yeah, it should be an exciting game, and realistically, if this stat hasn't really, I mean, I'm spewing that it's sort of all over Twitter at the moment, because I did pull this stat up a couple of weeks ago going into the bye round, and it's been very profitable in the lead up to it. But as soon as I saw this, and I've already looked ahead to next week to work out who's got the bye and where there could be some shifts in the markets, and I'm still not betting silly. Like West Coast, obviously, West Coast coming
an
off
anomaly,
the bye.
possibly.
This is possibly an anomaly, but I'm not looking for that. Those sort of trends. But Geelong and Melbourne in a game that the bookies have 50-50, why wouldn't I lean on the stats where 5 out of 6 times, despite the two teams playing each other, so 5 out of 5, where the team off the bye loses. Geelong coming off the bye, after the bye, coming on to the next week, they actually have a really great straight week. So after the bye, it's almost, I think it's 80% of the time, they don't go 0-2. So they bounce back after these games. It's in Geelong. The stats put it out for the history. It's a 50-50 game. I'll take the $2 from Bluebet. 2 units on that one, 12 up special, and hopefully they do a number on them early, like they did against Port Adelaide, but hopefully they can hold that 12 points up. So I'm going with Geelong, 2 units. A little bit of a heart, a little bit of a stats, but back to back, if that trend continues, I'll be winning 3 bets pretty clearly this week.
Getting into the habit of betting on Geelong after,
I've bet on them.
I've
bet on them twice this year, and both times profitable.
Stayed away from them for 3 months of the season, and now you're just going, yep, bang, bang, we're ready to go.
Now I finally work out they're not very good, so I can work out exactly where to put my money. But I haven't had the luxury of the last 10 years of football where them being a 50-50 shot is not normally a 50-50 shot with the dynasty of Geelong. So I'll take the double up money.
Yeah, definitely. So Friday night we head to Spud's game. For mental health awareness, St Kilda versus Brisbane.
Yeah, and then your girlfriend was just saying, your girlfriend, partner, fiance, I don't know what your label is, maybe a sneaky proposal coming, or your partner was saying
mother
before.
Of my child.
Mother of your child. I don't know what the title is. Anyway, she was saying that it's sold out, basically, was the premise of that story. So hopefully
but when they say sold out, there's still like thousands of spare seats usually.
Yeah. Well, it's a sellout, so no walk-up start tickets for St Kilda taking on Brisbane. Bit surprised this is the Spud game Pez, because I thought it wouldn't have been this game. I thought they would have done it. St Kilda Richmond is what they previously had done, wasn't it?
That was Maddie's match.
Maddie's match.
Nick Rewald's sister.
Has it always been against Brisbane, or is it just in the lead up or whatever round it falls under?
No, I think it was just usually at Marvel Stadium. So whenever it's at Marvel Stadium around this time of year, whoever their opponent is, it's in there. It's not ingrained in for many, many years. It's only been running for what, two seasons?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit longer, but they've probably just worked out Marvel Stadium this time of year in the lead up to sort of mental health awareness and the abundance of calendared events that the AFL has. It's probably difficult to find a game, but St Kilda taking on Brisbane, as we said, at Marvel, 205 outsiders of the Saints. Brisbane $1.77, 3.5 is the line, over under 168.5. Pez. Brisbane have had a bit of a hoodoo the last 5 or 6 years travelling to Melbourne. This game's at Etihad. Does that change the hoodoo of them coming to Melbourne?
Oh, we know earlier in the year they lost to the Bulldogs, who were struggling at the time at Marvel Stadium, and they've been looking really good at the Gabba, and they've been struggling away from home. So this is a really interesting game, and especially with the odds that you said there, because St Kilda started favourites. It was before last round, I'm pretty sure. And then it's been fluctuating ever since. And every time I load up the app, Brisbane just keep coming in and coming in and coming in. They were $1.90 earlier in the week. They were $1.82 earlier today, and I see them now live at $1.77. So the punters love Brisbane in this one to get the win over a struggling St Kilda. And St Kilda, they just had too many individual players make too many glaring errors last week. They had players that cost goals just from silly kicks and silly errors, and then when they decided, it's going to rain and we're going to actually man up Nick Vlaston, who took 8 marks in one quarter, 8 intercept marks in defence, then they actually got back into the game and were able to do something, but they needed to do it earlier. In this one, I can't put a bet out yet because I'm really looking forward again to the over-under disposals for the Brisbane side. We've got Hugh McCluggage, who is probably going to come back in his source. So you've got to think, last week I was all over Ashcroft, Zach Bailey and Coleman, with 2 of them getting over their line and Ashcroft missing by 1. So this week I'm looking at St Kilda, who give up a lot of disposals. I think Zach Bailey's role could possibly change, even though he had a stellar game last week with 26 disposals. At Marvel, under the roof, he might play a little bit more forward, so I'd be wary of his line. I wouldn't go the under. I wouldn't bet that, especially against St Kilda, but I don't think I'd take the over. I'm looking at players like Coleman again to go over his line. I'm hoping it sits at around 17.5 and they haven't bumped it up too much. If it's not that, it'll be something around 15-plus disposals in a same-game multi. Darcy Wilmot, back there as well. I think he can get a bit of the pill, and he's shown that in the last couple of weeks, and he uses the ball pretty well as well. So we go from there, and I'd be interested in some of their midfielders in Lockie Neal and McCluggage. But if their line's too high, I'm just going to stay away from it there. So I'll probably throw a same-game multi together with 15, 20-plus disposals with the Brisbane players, maybe a Jack Sinclair for St Kilda as well.
It's really interesting that you say that, looking at what we know about St Kilda and the way that they play football. Brisbane traditionally aren't a team that collect a lot of the pill. They're a lot more direct. They don't stuff around with it. They play a very direct sort of game of football. But the bookies definitely are on to this trend. So, you look at a couple of those players that normally would sit about in the 15 possession market, like Coleman, probably sitting last week, I think it was $1.60. You'll watch that come in quite a dramatic amount, not just because he got over that pretty easily last week, but also the St Kilda factor. So be really careful when you're looking at trends, because sometimes the bookies are onto them and they can make a little bit of money out of that for you not really following that trend along. Yeah,
well, Coleman, I think $1.35 last week into $1.20 this week already,
which is a huge thing for considering that if you look at any other week, he wasn't sitting at that 10 cents difference. So that's a huge difference. I'll probably do the same sort of thing and look at the disposal market and see if the bookies are continuing to adjust and see if we can get some money for that way. Look for a live bet out on Twitter for that one. Definitely targeting some of those mids, but as I said, Brisbane don't really use the mids a lot, so looking probably more at their defence and those back wingers to get some of the pill.
Yeah, and what we're hoping for in this game is St Kilda do play their zone at about the halfway point, and then Brisbane have to chip it between the back line and, get those uncontested marks and get those possessions up. So that's the trend we're kind of after, but we'll see if that plays a part on Friday night.
Yeah, and speaking of trends, if you look at Sportsbet at the moment, Brisbane sit $1.75. You mentioned earlier in the week, but as early as yesterday, as late as yesterday, they were sitting at $1.95, and I picked them up at Bluebet at $1.95. Same theory. They're coming off the bye, St Kilda, 2 weeks. Are they coming off the bye, actually?
No,
they're not. Sorry.
Both played last week.
No, sorry, this is a different game that I was going for that. This one here, the stat I'm looking at is that, we think Brisbane as being this team that's actually not really good in Melbourne, and then they're not. But if you look at the percentage that they play Docklands or Etihad or Marvel or Colonial or whatever you want to call it compared to the MCG, there's a huge difference in the win percentage. So at Docklands, they're actually sitting at 40%. The amount of times over the last 10, 15 years that they've played at one of those formerly named stadiums, compared to 28% at the MCG.
So a bit of a boost.
So there's a bit of a boost, but there's a range of reasons. So the teams that they're playing aren't those big clubs at the MCG. If they're going to get any blockbuster games of a team that's any good at the MCG, a Melbourne team, generally they're both travelling pretty well. You look at your Melbournes, you look at your Carlton, you look at your Essendon. If they're both travelling well, they're playing there. So them playing at Docklands, I really like. Again, flip of the coin. You got a top 8, top 4 side at the moment versus a team that's just inside the 8. I'll take the $1.95 on Bluebet, 2 units.
Yeah, all right. Best of luck. I'll be there Friday night and very interested to see how the teams perform.
Speaking of very interesting, this one here, I'm interested in the discrepancy in odds versus the line, Pez. We're talking about Sydney taking on West Coast, one of the historical battles for interstate teams over the last 10, 15 years in the mid-2000s. $1.04 favourites are the Swans, so pretty much free money there if you ask anyone. $11.50 outsiders the West Coast Eagles. I'm a bit surprised with the line at minus 40.5. First time in a while that 49.5 is the line. So over under 169.5. I'm surprised that this line is as low as it is compared to what the total for head to head is, because I feel like in the last couple of weeks we've had huge lines of the 50 and 60 mark, and this one here with the rumours of the West Coast getting 4 premiership defenders back in has really shifted the market.
Yeah, well, I'm really interested in this because the line came out at 55.5 when I saw it early last week. And it's been crunched in 5 points. So I'm really liking the line depending on the team lineup. So I want to have a look at that. This is at the SCG, so and at twilight in the afternoon. So maybe a check of weather closer to the Saturday. And if that weather's looking fine and the teams, there's not too much change, I will be chucking a unit on the Sydney at minus 49.5 their source, but I haven't locked it in just yet because I want to lock in, well, I can't even lock in my next bet. And the reason I can't lock it in is because I'm looking at goal scorers, and I'm looking at goal scorers against the West Coast Eagles because teams usually score a lot source. So it'll be weather dependent and it'll be player dependent because in some bookies, they've got no Lance Franklin in the lineup. But in some bookies, they do have Lance Franklin priced up for goal scorers. So there's just discrepancies everywhere. So if you are betting goal scorer bets, make sure you shop around and make sure you try and get the best price with the bookies that are available to you. So for example, I'm looking at Hayden McLean. And he's a key forward. He's scored something in every game from round 7 onwards, and he gets a few shots at goal. He's kicked multiple goals in a couple of those games in the last month as well. So he's $1.96 at Ladbrokes and Neds to get 2+ goals. Mm-hmm. He's $1.89 at Sportsbet for 2+ goals, and at Bet365 he's $1.57. So that is a big stretch in discrepancy for McLean. For 3+, he's $4 at Neds, $3.80 at Sportsbet, and $2.70 at Bet365. So I don't know what they're thinking. If they're Bet365, are they thinking Buddy's going to play and then he won't get as much of the pill? But I'm going to lock in 2+ goals. Hayden McLean, $1.96 at Ladbrokes or Neds, if weather is clear and if Buddy Franklin is not in that lineup.
Yeah, okay. So doing wait until the team lineouts and see where the discrepancies are, picking up hopefully some bargains and some value, and because sometimes that happens when the teams are released, they don't adjust the bookies straight away.
Yeah, not straight away. So you got to be quick with it.
You have got to be quick
tomorrow night when the teams are announced, and you can probably get a feel for the teams on the team's social media and things before that 6:25 mark when it comes out on the news.
Yeah, I actually tend to disagree a little bit with the shots inside goal. So obviously, West Coast, people are piling it on with West Coast at the moment. They get their midfield back, their back line potentially back, which should put a little bit more order in there. If you look at the amount of inside 50s that West Coast give away, they give away the most in the league, almost 70 per game, I think it is, which is absolutely ridiculous that they're giving away so many inside 50s. But if you look at how many goals that they give away per inside 50, it's about 30 versus their inside 50. So it's about 30 per game that they're giving away. If you look at Sydney on those, the reverse that, they sit in bottom 5 in the league. So they actually don't get a lot of inside 50s and scoring shots from their inside 50. So I like your theory of picking those bigger players going further back out and those, Buddy from outside 50, like we've talked many times before. But I'm not putting a bet on this game, but I probably actually would be leaning for a bit of the market adjustment that I don't think has been there, and looking about 290 for Sydney, 1-39. Sydney haven't been impressive. I know that there'll be a lot of talk into last week how they were competitive against Brisbane. As I said, I think Brisbane just sort of played with their foot a little bit. They didn't really put the foot down. They were coming off, looking at a bye going forward. So I'll be over that one potentially once the lineup's up. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket and then not have all the names be released back into the lineup. So I'll be leaning towards that one, Pez.
Yeah, you can't be locking in anything too early with, especially these bye rounds as well. There's some strange things happening, and strange things with Fremantle and Essendon over at Subiaco with some of the odds here as well.
Yeah, again, another fluctuating market. I think the stats coming out about the buy has really shifted things as well. I think that's been all over the media. $1.71 favourites are the Dockers at SPS Stadium. Essendon outsiders 214, -4.5 is the line. Over under 156.5. The Bombers this week have been talking heaps about their logo, but they really should be talking about the way their team's travelling, because the way that they're playing, they're sitting 6 at the moment. They've already surpassed their over under total wins for the season. That was sitting about 7.5. They got 8. Now they could really get a couple of sneaky wins here, focus on the football, and set themselves up for a September visit, which we know how that's fared in the past. But again, that's a lot better than expectations from the year. I don't know why they're bringing up the logo this year, but what are your thoughts about the actual game? Let's put the logo aside there, Pez.
Yeah, really interesting one for mine, because Essendon are travelling over after the bye, and Fremantle were absolutely horrendous last week against GWS. Did not even put up a fight over at Giant Stadium. So I'm expecting Fremantle to bounce back with their midfield with Sarong and Brayshaw, and I think Big Darcy has a chance to come back in this week. And if Darcy is in, there's a good chance Fremantle can get the job done against Essendon. I'll be leaning towards putting a bet out at Fremantle 1-39. It's sitting at $2.18 because I just don't think with their offense and with the way Essendon do move the ball, I'm not sure how it can go over the 40 plus there. They definitely can be beaten by 40 plus, don't get me wrong, but I think the value is better with the 1-39 at 2.18. The other ones that I'm looking at is Freo just to win the first quarter, source is $1.72. But Freo at the quarter time line, minus 0.5, which is literally the same bet, just worded differently, is $1.86. So it's 14 cents difference. So this is another example of shop around for the best odds, because you can do literally the same bet and you gain 14 cents on the bookie.
Yeah, it's very smart to shop around and find where there are those anomalies in the market. That's a great little pick there. I love your thinking in this one. I'm a little bit staggered at the way the odds have actually drifted out. They opened earlier in the week at $1.65, and I saw that and I thought, geez, that's going to come in a lot more. That's going to be sitting about $1.40 by the end of things. Fremantle were very disappointing last week, but travelling away at home, they've really started to adjust the way that they play. They're allowed to drop one here and there. Essendon coming off the bye, though, is what I'm really focusing on. So lock in blue bet, 2 units, 171. I know I'm being boring with just picking winners, but sometimes you got to stay simple. As you said, the bye rounds can cause a lot of differences in styles of play, and it's when they have that week off and people they're going to try things and adjustments. But Fremantle at home, a side that we thought were going to be a top 8 side, playing a team that we thought were probably going to be a bottom 8 side, $1.71 odds. I love that. So lock me in for that 2 units.
Yeah, I'll be thinking about something about the 12 up special as well, depending on the teams with Darcy coming back in. So that gets us through to Sunday, where we've got 2 big matchups here.
Yeah, we do. Collingwood taking on Adelaide. Last time these two teams met, it was an absolute cracker of a game. One of the games of the year, of course. Collingwood scraping through last quarter comeback. But Collingwood favourites, $1.32 favourites. 340 outsiders, the Crows. Minus 20.5 is the line. Over under 166.5. This game, of course, is in Melbourne. Adelaide are one of those teams that the Jekyll and Hyde, similar to Brisbane, but they are two different sides, home and away Adelaide.
Yeah, it's been massive, Adelaide. They have got a couple of wins. They got a win in Tasmania against Hawthorn, but they stole that in the end, and Hawthorn probably should have got that win too. So Adelaide have been absolutely horrendous away from home, and Collingwood, are they going to be looking to capitalise, and especially with Darcy Moore in that team, is the most important player for them coming across that back line. I was looking at some odds because I was trying to see, where I would lean towards. I'm not putting a bet on this one, but I'll be looking at the halftime or quarter time line in Adelaide's favour, because I think that their team's good enough that they can start decently, but they've been really poor at finishing off games when they're playing away. For example, they had a 5-goal lead against GWS and ended up losing the game. They had a 5-goal lead against the Gold Coast Suns up in Darwin and ended up losing the game as well. They had a big lead against Hawthorn, ended up losing the lead and stealing it back at the end. So they do have that trend. I think Collingwood are coming off a loss from the Queen's birthday, both coming off buys, which is really interesting, and at Collingwood's home ground, the MCG. I just can't lock in anything just yet.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because Adelaide are a great team. They're fun, they're exciting, their forward line's very potent, but they are a completely different side away from home. Collingwood, they're the ladder leaders. They've been the cream of the crop all year. They've persevered through tight games. They've blown teams out that they should have been competitive against. They had a setback last week. Feels like miles ago. Last Queen's birthday.
Well, it was because it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So, but they're coming off the bye. So it's an interesting one. This one because Adelaide could bounce back. But for me, I'm waiting till the teams come out. For bettors out there, we talk about St Kilda giving away a heap of possessions to oppositions. Adelaide, they give away the least amount. So they're 30 under the average AFL disposal rate. So the average AFL disposal per game is 363. They're sitting at 339. So it's not quite 30, but just under. But they give away the least. And Collingwood sit about mid-table, just a little bit above the AFL average. So just be mindful in this, about the way the game will play out. Collingwood will probably come out a little bit sluggish, so they're not going to give away a heap of disposals. So just be mindful of that, and rather than just chucking it on because
chucking
that's
everyone
what you do.
in the same game multi.
Yeah, just be very mindful of the opposition. We always talk about the betting advantages, but sometimes there's some deficits as well.
You're playing there, so no bet in that one.
No bet at the moment. This one, if anything, I might have a dabble with the Adelaide line coming off a bye, but probably not.
Yep. Gold Coast Hawthorn to round out round 15.
Gold Coast Hawthorn, as you said, rounded off $1.29 favourites are the Suns. Hawthorn 362 outsiders, minus 23.5 is the line. Over under 168.5. Not much to really say with this one. Two teams that are sitting quite low in the equation. Gold Coast coming off a really disappointing loss against Carlton, against a team that's below them, and Hawthorn. Well, I think that they've had their 4 wins for the year, so they're pretty much done. So it's a bit of a dead rubber to me.
Yeah, well, Hawthorn impressed me against Brisbane Live the other week with their young midfield, and Gold Coast, they're in a definite bounce back spot because they would have been ridiculed during the week to let that happen at the MCG in front of a decent crowd for the Carlton members showing up for that game. So I don't mind the odds. I hate the head-to-head odds here, Sauce. $1.29 for Gold Coast. I wouldn't be touching that, but you can get some value in the 1 to 39 markets as well. So Gold Coast 1 to 39 is paying $2.18, and I think that could be seen as a little bit of value. So again, I'll wait and see if I'll lock that in and post that to Twitter and pop that on the spreadsheet, or just leave it depending on what happens.
Yeah, I talked last time Hawthorn played about the trends in that and how we've got it. All year they've been giving up 4 or more goals to key forwards. Yes. I picked the wrong bloke with the last time with Hipwood, but the trend still followed. Be very weary looking into this game. If you look at the market for 4 or more goals, you got Ben King sitting 280. 280 Pez to kick 4 or more goals,
Disgusting.
which is just horrible odds. Next closest is Jack Lukosius at 480. If you look at him for 3 goals, you're sitting at $1.68 for King and $2.40 for Lukosius. So the bookies are very aware of this trend. If you want to find some value and still take advantage of that, jump on to the any time goal scorer first quarter. Ben King sits at $1.81. And if you look at the trend of Hawthorn, they give a lot of those goals away quite early. And then they make that adjustment. So, Ben King or even Jack Lukosius first quarter to get 220, to get a goal, 220 or $1.81. That's where I might lean if I'm, I'm rolling around in my green on the Saturday and I'm a little bit bored. So, but just be very wary that the market is very aware of them leaking goals to key forwards.
Yeah, I wouldn't be touching some of those odds for the 4+ and the 3+. This is where bookies, I really hate what they do. If they offer one side of the market, you've got to offer the other side. And I know they don't have to. I'm just saying that they have to. It'd be great for punters if they did, because I'd be going all over Lukosius not to kick 3 goals at $2.40 it might be on the other side. So there'd be some great value in that, and that's obviously why, not a good business model, why they don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would bring back the old tab bet that used to be there, any player to kick 5 goals, yes or no, because that offered some great value. If you kicked no, put no every week, that's how you cleaned up all your money, wasn't it? The anytime five goals.
I can't remember over the years with the way we've
wasn't that the
up.
big one where they put it for every game for no player to get 5 goals?
That was the 40 disposal market.
But the same thing,
That was the
you
big
were
one.
able to tip the deficit and say no that they weren't. Very similar to the over-under. Great market, and it would be amazing if a bookie ever did that, but there's reasons that they don't.
Oh, after that 40 disposal debacle where it had to go through the Northern Territory Commission and then all punters got paid out, they won't be making that mistake anytime soon.
No, they definitely won't. Have you got anything cheeky for the game? I know we both haven't put a heap of bets on, being Wednesday and as early as it is. Definitely jump on our Twitter. You'll be able to find all our live bets there, and some different advice as well for how you're punting. Our TikTok may be a little bit slow this week with the not many bets out there, Pez. But
yeah, we can put some discussions up there or something, depending. We'll see what the social media manager is able to come up with and put out. The young kid that we've got as the intern.
Yeah, he's doing a good job, that bloke.
Yeah, is he?
Yeah,
Oh, you happy with him?
I don't mind his little performance.
Yeah,
But
excellent.
anything cheeky this week, Pez?
No, nothing cheeky at all for me.
I know if you combine mine and yours, all of them together, you could get odds about $81. So you're making absolute packet.
Don't be doing that. Don't be combining all the bets, because that's just ridiculous. You're not going to
You can't get
win.
$81 odds anyway. But
You're not going to win long term anyway. So, go from there. Hopefully you've enjoyed that little, because it's a little round, isn't it?
Yeah,
round
it's
15.
a
Is
little
it
round.
the buy rounds finished now?
one
after
more
this?
next week of
One
buy
more.
rounds. And what's even better next week is that our part-time jobs finish soon.
That's
so
right,
we will
yes.
be able to get on the day recordings, a couple of bevies into us, and a little bit more research and not running against the clock. So we'll have more information next week. We'll have more bets, I'm sure. And
Hey, don't put pressure on me to put more bets down. I'm not putting money on stuff I don't like.
I'll
Come
have
on.
more bets.
Oh, yeah, you'll have your 17 unit stake.
I'm back to my 17 unit best, Pez. That's what happened. Is I had that week off work because I was sick, and 17 units was the response.
Well, this round with the thing, it's like we're England. We've declared this round in the first innings and then go on to lose the match. How ridiculous is that by the Poms?
Oh, Bazball.
Bazball.
That's what they're calling it. That's what they're all wrapped about. Bazball, the great way of playing. It's all about you think you'll win, you will win. So we just have to get the sauce mentality. Sauce ball.
Well,
That's not
the Aussies.
sauce balls. I think that's my nickname in high school.
And on that note, I'm going to get out of here. So I'm in Pez. Peace out.
I'm still sauce. We'll catch up next time.